I appreciate it, especially because some of you had to learn about to talk through the back channels. So we'll try and get that straightened out on the future tech talks that come through the regular system. My name's Harry Robinson. I work up in Kirkland. I report to HiTech. And one of the jobs I have is to bring in speakers. And one of the perks of this is I get to bring in speakers that I really enjoy and have learned a lot from. So John is one of those people. How many people have used exploratory testing in some way? Okay. So have I. But part of the frustration with it is to really understand, well, how do I know I've done a good job? How do I learn to do this better? And John is actually one of the people who's answered those questions in a large way for me. So now he'll answer them for you. So John.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you all for being here. I want to correct something right away. For those of you who didn't raise your hands, you've done exploratory testing. You just don't know it yet. Okay, how am I for sound? Am I good, Gwen? Okay, good. My name is John Bach, and I've been testing for 10 years. My focus is exploratory testing, or unscripted, unrehearsed, improvisational testing. Okay? And I want to show you, like I was saying, I'll show you that you've all done it, because I have a lot of paradigmatic examples. Okay? All right. I'm going to talk today about some definitions, and maybe this is why you didn't raise your hand. Maybe you don't know you're doing it. This is what I suspect. So, what I love this magazine, by the way. I love Wired. Anybody here Wired? Okay, this is the latest issue I got at the airport. I was flipping through trying to find something, as I often do, accidentally, in an exploratory fashion for this talk, and I found something, page 30. It's titled, let's see, "You Lousy Tingo, You," and these are linguistic quirks around the world. For example, Nico Nico, I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's the Indonesian word. Oh, sorry, does anybody know what that is? Other than it being an Indonesian word, because I've given it away a little bit. The Indonesian word for someone with a novel idea that actually makes the situation worse. So that's what they call that. Right? Isn't that interesting? How about Ixurapak? Anyone? Ixurapak? I may be saying this wrong, so... well, it's the Inuit way of describing the act of repeatedly going outside to check if someone is coming. Outside the igloo, I would presume. I don't know what. Anyway, so these are interesting words from different cultures. Well, I want to talk about, the main thing I want to talk about today is what is exploratory testing, and what are the words we can use to describe what it is we're doing. Okay? I'm actually going to show a curling video. Does anyone know what curling is? The sport of curling? Okay. If you don't, you're about to. Okay? Because I want to take something that looks really easy and say, oh, that's easy. Anyone could do that. And see how many of you resonate with that. And then talk about the terminology that they use. Okay, but first a haiku. Oh, masters of test. Describe to me your methods. We launch in an hour. Okay, does this sound familiar to anyone when you have like 1 hour to test or 1 day to test and you got, hey, can we ship yet? And we're like, wait a minute, you'll pry this out of my cold dead hands. Okay, that may be a sign that you're doing exploratory testing. No test cases, you know, just your wits, your intuition, okay, no spec, okay? Okay, here are my assumptions. Well, some of you said you didn't do exploratory testing, and we'll get to that. But it's okay if you haven't. Well, like I said, we'll get to that. But maybe you might need to do it. So you got to know how it's done, so you can at least care about it enough. And more importantly, do you know if you're doing it well, as Harry said? Okay. I'm going to flip my monitor for 1 second so I can see my screen. Okay, good. Okay. Here's the problem that I face. Isn't it just random pounding on the keys? You know? Can any toddler, any child do it? What's the big deal? Okay? That's problem number one that I face. Problem number two. I don't know how this tester does it. She's just amazing. Give her 30 seconds, she can find a blue screen. I'm in awe. I don't know how she does it. I just keep doing it. Keep doing it, and you do what you do, and I'll just report the bugs you report. Camp A, Camp B, right? My talk today is attempting to bridge these two camps to say, you know, you people in number one, it's harder than it looks. And I'll explain why I think it's harder than it looks. And you people in number two, don't worry. You don't have to be like a Zen master to do this well. I'll show you some skills and tactics, 14 of them to be precise. Okay? So hopefully we'll meet in the middle. And my ultimate crusade is to evangelize, if it's not apparent already, my candor and my diction and my tone. I want credibility for exploratory testing. Okay? I want it to be brought from the alleys and the shadows and into the light. Okay? Okay. These are common sentiments I've heard. So this is my counter-argument. This is how exploratory testing is observable, evaluatable, and teachable skills. Okay. All right. Let me just demonstrate for those of you who said you weren't sure if you're doing exploratory testing. Let me find the right talk here. Well, while that's launching, let me try an exploratory exercise right now, just off the cuff. Here are some ideas I can think of with that little UI that you saw before. I think it's going to be really slow to launch, so apologize for this. Okay. Let me toggle this back. Okay, good. Okay, so take three identical numbers, right? That's an equilateral triangle, okay? Three different numbers makes a scalene triangle, or three unequal sides. There's a triangle called an isosceles triangle that makes two equal sides, okay? So one of those three triangles is what this program will create, okay? So I don't have a spec. It's in my head. You just heard the spec. And I could think of ideas to test this. Is this working? So I try a conformance test. Okay, 3, 3, 3, equilateral. 1, 2, 3, scalene. 2, 2, 3, isosceles. What about large numbers, more than 1 million characters? Yes?
1, 2, 3 is not a scale.
Oh, thank you. So 1, 2, so 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is important. Now, I just heard some domain knowledge here. The reason this is not a triangle, by the way, is because the two smallest sides have to be greater than the third side for the triangle to be legitimate. Okay, so I don't expect you to be trigonometry majors to know this, but it will help with the oracle's problem. Okay, the oracle's problem is, do you know a bug when you see one? Okay, so you may have to know some math. Okay, so 3, 4, 5 is a scalene. Okay, so I try large numbers. I try letters in there. I try tab order just to see if I could get it to crash. Holding down the tab keys is called a shoe test. What if I took my shoe and put it on the space bar? You know, also known as the ham sandwich test, because allegedly someone left their ham sandwich on the return key once upon a time in our folklore, and it caused a blue screen. Okay. All right. There's can I cut and paste into these fields? You know, you see, I'm kind of scattered, right? So it does seem like a toddler could do it, that I'm just randomly pressing on the keys. But what if I gave myself a mission? And what if that mission was still unscripted, but the mission was to get it to draw a triangle outside of the boundaries of the box? Okay, what would you do? Okay, anyone have one idea that they would try? To try to reproduce whether or not a triangle can be drawn outside the boundaries of the box? Negative numbers. Okay, so maybe it'll draw down here or out here or something like that. Okay, so that's one idea. Any other ideas?
Larger numbers.
How large is large?
So let's say 1, 2, and 15 or something like that.
Okay.
It doesn't make a triangle.
Okay.
So you try to make something which will not come up with that.
Okay, try to make something that doesn't launch as a triangle. Okay. All right, let's talk more about this. Okay. Here are some questions that come up that you may be asking yourselves. Have come up for me. Isn't it unstructured and unmeasurable? I'm here to say no, it's not. The structure for the structure part of exploratory testing can be giving yourself a mission, like I just gave you. I gave you a very loose charter, if you will. Okay? What about the measurable part? Well, what if we spent an hour trying to reproduce that one bug that tech support is reporting that a customer saw a triangle outside the bounds of the box? And what if in that 1 hour we kept track of 3 activities? Okay, mouse clicks and keystrokes are testing activities. Anytime we stopped doing that and found something we were suspicious of, like a bug investigation and reporting, let's call that activity number 2. And the third activity, like anything we had to do to kind of set up to begin testing in the first place, or times we had to stop to maybe get more information about our mission, like call tech support and say, what operating system were they running? So what if we just kept track of those 3 activities in terms of a percentage in a given hour, how much time we spent? Well, that's measurable. It's unscripted, it's unrehearsed, it's intuitive, it's improvisational. But I just gave you 3 different metrics, if you will, that we could do in an hour, which is another measurable unit, time. This, by the way, is something that my brother and I invented called session-based test management. You can Google it. Here I am talking to Google. I get to, it's no longer just an ordinary word. Session-based test management is a way to manage and measure exploratory testing with time and with metrics. There's a couple other things to it, but I'm here to refute number 2 with that one example. Okay. Not too long ago, last February, several colleagues and I got together, and we've been doing exploratory testing for a long time. And we wanted to talk about exploratory testing the way we knew it, because maybe there were some important problems and disagreements that we had about this. So let's really study what exploratory testing is about. Here is our mission. Teaching styles. What teaching styles did we have in our teaching arsenal? Could we come to a consensus of what exploratory testing is? Are there any particular models or exercises that are fun or useful to teach? Like the triangle program is a classic one. What about any disagreements? That's the fun part. Maybe there was important disagreements. So that was our mission. So several conversation starters. What makes exploratory testing effective or ineffective? Are there particular behaviors that we've seen over the course of our careers, people we've managed, that kind of go away from making exploratory testing kind of an accepted, legitimate approach? And I say approach and not technique on purpose. Okay? Because scripted testing, where you have the test steps written down, okay, is one approach. Exploratory testing is the opposite approach. But it's not a technique, because within both of those approaches, you can do several kinds of techniques. For example, you could do scripted automation, scripted domain testing, scripted flow testing, scripted stress testing, or you could do exploratory stress testing, exploratory flow testing, exploratory beta testing. Okay, those are all techniques, 2 different approaches. Okay? So these are conversation starters we've had for the Exploratory Testing Research Summit to give you an idea of how people who call us experts are talking about what's the next big thing. How can we understand this a bit more? Okay. All right. So here's some definitions that people at that summit came up with. Robert Sabourin, awesome speaker, Canadian fellow who has a company called Amibug. He says, continuous test design as testing continues, continuous testing as design continues, and continuous test planning as testing continues. So planning, execution, design, all done simultaneously. There's no design phase and then execution, and you can never go back to design. Okay? Elizabeth Hendrickson, a style of testing in which you explore the software while simultaneously, there's that word again, designing and executing tests, using feedback from the last test to make the next test more robust or better or provide information about it. So she mentioned this to a developer, and the developer said, it's like test-driven testing, as opposed to, you know, test-driven development. Test-driven testing. I thought that was pretty clever. Michael Bolton, operating and observing the product with the freedom and mandate to investigate it in an open-ended search for information. Freedom. That started us thinking, hey, exploratory testing is about freedom. The extent to which you are in control of the test. The extent to which the idea of the test comes from you. And the control of the test comes from you. It wasn't written for you, and you have to follow the script exactly. Freedom is a big part. And lastly, Cam Kainer, author of Testing Computer Software, one of the great books of in our industry. Simultaneous, again, there's that word, learning, design, and execution, with an emphasis on learning. Emphasis on learning. I'll come back to that. Oh, well, I'll come back to it right now. So what about this word ad hoc testing? Okay. Ad hoc, there's some definitions. Ad hoc testing doesn't necessarily care if you learn. So it is kind of like pounding on the keys. You're divested from the information gleaned from the test. Okay? So that's why I say all ET is ad hoc, because it meets those definitions, but not all ad hoc is exploratory testing, because ad hoc doesn't care if you learn or not. That's the way I define it, which is I'm going to take this time now to invite you to challenge me on anything you're going to hear today, by the way. I meant to do that up front. Not only questions, but problems you have with these definitions. Okay? I invite you to refute any of this, because I want to make our craft better. I want to help bring this into the light, as I mentioned, and I want you to feel free to give me feedback about that. Okay. Exploratory testing paradigmatic examples or analogies. Think about these. Just pick your favorite, one that resonates with you most. A job interview. Let's pick that one for a second. Ever been on a job interview where you sat down in front of the interviewer and they had a script or a checklist, and no matter what you said, they did not deviate from that checklist? You could really say, you know, now that I think of it, I don't know if I want to work at Google. I'm like, okay, so tell me about when you were in 8th grade. They don't even look up from their checklist. It's like, excuse me? So when they say, excuse me, can you say that again? That's exploratory testing, because the data they just got changes their test plan. Okay, they're adapting. Driving a car, same thing. There's cruise control. Yeah, we can set cruise control. We don't have to do any thinking. It just depends where we're setting cruise control. Okay, so driving a car, you get constant input that you have to adapt to. Any sports team or sports analogy, they start off with a game plan. They call it a game plan, right? Then they adapt when things change. Wow, this team's tougher than we thought. We got to bring in the special gold, colored game plan. Okay? All right. All of those. And lastly, I think I have one more up there. Even going to a testing conference, you start off looking at the speakers. Here's who I want to see. Here's who I don't want to see. Here's what I think is interesting. Here's my plan. Then you go see the speaker you really wanted to see, and you go, oh, that's just his talk from 10 years ago. I know, he's just put a different title on it. So you get up and you walk out. And so you adapt as things come to light. Okay? These are useful because I find that people still don't understand exploratory testing. They see it as random, and they see it as purposeless. Okay, here I am with the paradigmatic examples. So at Extras, the Exploratory Testing Research Summit, Mike Kelly offered this paradigmatic example. What happens if you have a certain defect, like the triangle program, and drawing it outside the triangle drawing outside the box? Scott Barber, ever have a developer walk up to your desk and say, I could use your help. Can you just whip something up? Okay. Michael Bolton again, who is an excellent a colleague and consultant in Canada, working on a new build of an existing product. checking for bug fixes by using old tests. Here's my brother James. Please investigate this puzzling situation. Or, what happens if you're asked to test something that doesn't exist yet? It's just a sketch on a napkin, or it's the first spec review meeting, and it's just, they're still flushing out what it's going to be. Can you think of tests, ways it might fail, even before you see it? My answer is yes, you can. And here's another one from Kaner. Test from a quick test list. Okay, so these are loose scripts. Here's another one from James Lindsley. Once a script is executed, choosing different tests and re-executing. So even if when you have a scripted case, change some of the variables. Okay. So there is the bug that I reproed. Okay, I deleted the input. Someone said negative numbers. That's exactly what happened. If my Perl program is working, I'd show it to you. I'll try to get it working once we hit another slide here. Maybe the link will work. Okay. In fact, let me try this real quick just to see if it'll launch. Yes. This might work. Haha, it worked. Okay, great. I just need to see it. Okay, negative number, so that's a clue. But it may not be the only way to reproduce this, okay? So, let's try it. Repro. Ideas, please. Just shout them out, and I'll try to keep up with you. 15, 15, 3. Okay. Isosceles.
0, 0,
0,
0.
0, 0. Not a triangle.
0.3, 0.4, 0.5.
Decimals. 0.3, 0.4, 0.4. Before I click check, what do you expect?
Draw something.
You expect it to draw something
Small.
small? Okay. All right. Does that meet your expectations? Okay. So, is this a bug? Hands up, it's a bug.
It's a feature.
It's a feature? Who said? Oh, jeez. I forgot my audience for a second. Who am I? Oh,
The
jeez.
software is smart enough to scale according to.
So she says the software is smart enough to scale up. So hands up, who thinks it's a bug and you'd report it? Okay, Harry, and you. Okay, 2 out of like 600. No, 3, 4. Okay, all right, all right. I won't ask why. I can understand why they might report it because they say, well, it should be. It's not following a scale. It should be scale. Whereas she's saying, oh, it calculates for you. It's solved, so it's a feature. Right? Okay. All right. Still no repro. Any other ideas?
ABC.
ABC, leave it empty. So I'm here. I'm continuing to hear ideas. So there's not so you're adapting to each other because you're not content that you've seen it yet, right? That's what I'm guessing. All right.
1, 2, and 3.
Oh yes, the 1, 2, 3. That is an excellent test. Okay, it's an excellent test, but keep going. So this is called the rumble strip heuristic. I borrowed this from my brother. A heuristic is a useful way of solving a problem, by the way, that sometimes works. Sometimes works. For example, when you're in a strange city and you want to find a Burger King, find a McDonald's. Because the sign is higher and brighter and yellow, and they're usually across the street from each other. Okay? But not always. Not always. So it's a rule of thumb. Okay, heuristic. Okay, one of the definitions of testing. So the rumble strip heuristic says, well, when you're driving and it's late at night and you kind of go too far off the road and there's a rumble strip, there's grooves in the road and your car goes ba 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 ba. That's meant to wake you up so that you don't go off the road. So when you hear the rumble strip, it's saying something bad may continue to happen if you don't take action now. Okay? So the rumble strip here says something bad may continue to happen if you don't take action now, so don't take action. Remember, you're testers. You don't have to take any action to correct it. You take the opposite action. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, any way you would improv off of that? Now that you're close, you've got it to draw outside, but it's technically not a triangle, and tech support says, no, that's not what they saw. So you're like, okay.
So
Just out of curiosity, can you reverse them to 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1. Ah, excellent. I'm glad that came up. 3, 2, 1. What does that tell you? Not a triangle, no line. Anyone? Does that, hopefully your brain's tingling a little bit saying, wait a minute, it shouldn't matter.
Go for 3, 1, 2.
3, 1, 2. All right. 3, 1, 2. Not a triangle, but it's there. Okay, I want to help you out a little bit using an idea I already heard. Okay, the decimals. 1.9, check. Okay, how about 2.1? Check. Oh, that's interesting. 2.2. All right. What does it think about 2.9? Okay. What is it going to think about 3.2? Oh, that's interesting. 2.9. Well, where was that again? 2.9. Okay. So it seems to kind of adapt. 3.1. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so I'm just doing some improvisation. So still no repro. So we can play with this. Okay, so now we're on the trail. And by the way, this particular technique is called OFAT, or one factor at a time. We're only changing one thing because we're trying to narrow in like a laser beam. Okay, I think I've spent a little too long on that because I have some more good content, and we'll come back to it. Okay, I mentioned scripted versus exploratory before. Hopefully this will help you explain the difference to anybody that you feel may care about this, especially, as you work with it too. Here's purely scripted, here's freestyle exploratory. There is a continuum here. Have you ever ran a test script where you said, oh, step 4, oh, I know what they mean, and you decided to tweak one little thing? Well, are you exploring or are you scripted? Well, you were in control of that particular line item. You weren't in control of the whole test, perhaps, but you were in control of an important part of the test, perhaps. So it's not fully scripted, so it may be a vague script. Okay, on the opposite role, have you ever assumed the role of a user, a particular user, maybe your sister or your brother, a very particular persona, okay, with a full history, age, date, or birth date, social makeup, heritage, all that stuff. Okay, that's a role. Okay, so it's not a full script, but it's not completely freestyle. Okay, so to know where you are, to what extent am I in control of the test? Some people don't think exploratory testing is an art. I just looked up the definition from Merriam-Webster.com. It seems to me like it's an art. It's a skill that takes a cultivation. You cultivate your experience and take study. Okay? Ah, yes, curling. I promised the curl. So who has not seen curling? Okay, a couple of people in the audience. Okay, so you're asking yourself, why curling, John? What is this about? I got infected with this commentary. Color commentary and play-by-play for a sport that hucks rocks down a sheet of ice with brooms. Are you kidding me? But I saw this double takeout, and I'm like, that's got to be hard to do. And so I went to the web, and I started learning the curling terminology, and what a hog line is, what a tag line is, what the house meant, how the points are scored. And I suddenly appreciated the skill of these guys. So I suddenly saw an exploratory testing parallel. This is my life, my career as a tester. I see exploratory testing everywhere. The camp that says, oh, how hard could it be, and the camp that says, I'll never be that good. Somewhere we meet in the middle, hopefully. So I started to think about what I would do to become a curling master. And, by the way, up on this site, there's some great flash animations of what curling is about. And this video shows two rocks thrown with equal weight or equal speed. One is swept and one is not. And it shows how one starts to curl or change its trajectory a little bit, because the ice is not normal ice, it's special ice. I didn't know that. It's sprayed with like kind of a mister, so that it creates little pebbles on the ice, little bumps, so that when the sweepers come in, they're actually melting those little pebbles enough where it starts to change the direction of the rock. That's a very strategic thing. So sweeping is a really important facet of curling. So when the thrower is saying, hard, hard, I mean sweep hard, melt those pebbles fast because I want that thing to sneak in there right behind that other stone. Okay? So there's some great little videos up there. Okay, so stages in my curling mastership. Okay? So I define a master as an artist or performer, in a player of consummate skill. Okay, so on your way to becoming a great exploratory tester, just think of these as I've related them to curling. Okay, so you have to know that there's something called curling, so now some of you do. You have to watch it being done, check, so that's the red. Okay, have some curiosity, hopefully. You know, maybe not. Maybe this is a total experiment. I've never done this talk with curling before, so I think some of you are engaged, and that's all I need. It's just a few to feel like I'm not wasting your time. Learn basic terminology, the hog line, the hammer, the last rock in the end, and try it. So it's not red because I haven't done it yet. Okay? Here's some more things. Okay? This I put these in there. Oh, I need to do the audio so in case you can see. So it's number 6. Realize I can never be good at it. Practice. Get over the fact I can never be good at it and compete in the Olympics. Keynote at a curling conference and move to Canada and become a commentator for CBC. This is kind of how I started my testing career and focused on exploratory testing. I knew there's something called exploratory testing. I watched it being done. I had a lot of curiosity. I learned some terminology, and back 10 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot, frankly. So I tried it, and then I realized I could never be good at it, and then I practiced, and here I am, you know, after a lot of things on that list. Other than moving to Canada, I haven't done that yet. But wouldn't it be cool if there was a tester competition with color commentary and play-by-play? This is something my brother and I wanted to do at the Software Testing Analysis and Review Conference last November, is give a demo to people like you and say, if you're confused about exploratory testing, let us show you how it's done. Okay? Let us show you the 14 different skills and tactics. And I'll do play-by-play, and my brother would do color commentary. And we invite you to outthink us. In fact, the title of the talk was called Testing Outside the Box, B-A-C-H-S, because I'm John Bach, and my brother's James, and da-da-da. So I was like, oh, look at the cheesy title they came up for us, James. And he goes, I thought of that. I was like, oh, sorry, man. But it worked, and because we're known for being passionate exploratory testers. And so we wanted to do this color commentary. Well, to do that, we needed to come up with a language. What is it that we are asking people to look out for when we're testing? To watch for. I shouldn't say look out for. We want them to notice it. Okay. Okay, so what would a curling mastermind do? Okay, they might study great games, they may compete or play for recreation, they may write articles about their experiences. Okay, same for exploratory testing. And you know, they may know and accept that they won't win every game. When you think about what a master is, to become a master at this is what comes to my mind. Okay, here's how I got that thing to repro. Okay, so negative numbers. It was a combination of everything I've heard so far. The 3-2-1 test was a brilliant test because I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I tried the same thing you did. I'm so glad it happened here. I did not script that, by the way. Someone said, what about 2-3-1 and 2-1-3? That's exactly what I did. And I got to see that there was, at really close spaces, there were some interesting disparities. So I tried decimals, right? And then I tried negative decimals and got a triangle to draw way up there. So the sides, the order of the numbers did matter. I didn't think it mattered. So I had to break myself out of that assumption, which I did by coming up with some tests. Okay, so, all right, enough talk. What about these exploratory testing skills and tactics? Okay, I remember it as Mr. Q-Comp grabs C, R, and R. It's a mnemonic. Sounds like Jar Jar Binks, I guess. Mr. Q-Comp grabs C, R, and R. Okay, here's what that stands for. Mr. Q. Comp. Grab C. R and R. These are different ways that I use in the lab where I work. I work for an outsourced testing lab in Seattle. My job is to help us compete with offshoring, frankly, and to find better bugs and to find them faster, because we're more expensive dollar for dollar. So what that means is we have to provide better value. Now, this isn't a vendor talk. This is a technique talk, an approach talk, right? So these are different skills that I train for at the lab to help make us better. Okay? All right, let me talk about each one really briefly. And I don't know what's going to be done with the slides, but if you email me, I'll be happy to send them to you. Okay? So I don't expect you, by the way, to remember all these. I just, when you leave, maybe remember something about curling, the guy who talked about curling and how it's like underappreciated and how now you're going to do curling lessons or something. I don't know. But don't feel compelled to remember all of these. But challenge me on any of this, or if I'm missing something, especially if there's a skill or a technique that you have done and you've got a name for it, tell me about it. Okay, so modeling. All right, this is how are you going to know what the product is going to do, how it works? For example, what's in the file menu if you're testing a business application or something that has a file menu? What's on all the menus? Okay, what are the files that get installed? Okay, having a feel for the product. Okay, all these kind of things. Okay, resourcing. To what extent can you gather and obtain the tools and information to support the very active exploratory testing, right? It's also getting people to help you. You know, if you don't know, ask. Go into the web looking for more information. Okay, different things. That's called resourcing. Questioning, the biggest thing. All testing is questioning. In fact, a test is just a question in disguise, right? If you don't have a question in your head when you're testing, you're not testing. Okay? But there's an art to it. What about loaded questions? Okay? Questions you think you know the answer to. Rhetorical questions. Okay? Sometimes I've been in meetings where I ask a rhetorical question just to see if someone will answer me. Like, why are we shipping this thing? Remember, John? It solves this particular... Oh, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. What purpose do you think it solves? Because we may not be on the same page. Okay, asking questions in a way that elicits different kinds of information. Okay, chartering. This is crucial in session-based test management. Remember the technique that uses time boxes to frame exploratory testing? Every session, every time box has a charter or a mission statement. For example, let me give you an analogy. Lewis and Clark, the explorers who set off from the Missouri River in 1802, I think it was, and their mission was to get to the Pacific Northwest somehow, right? And well, the specific mission from Jefferson was to get to the Pacific Northwest, get to the Pacific Ocean by using rivers, okay, and establish a trade route, okay? So it's important to know that they actually failed in that mission. But they're still called explorers. They found out a lot of information about that territory. Okay? All right. Observing. Okay? Well, how hard can observing be? Well, there's a lot to observing. In fact, there's something called inattentional blindness, which happens to scientists. Well, it happens to all of us. Well, sometimes when we're looking so closely at something, we miss the periphery. Okay? So at the lab, I teach classes with some objectives that involve how to observe and look out for particular behavior that you may be missing. Okay. Manipulating, making and managing contact with the object of your study, configuring it. Okay, there may be something you have to do with the software. To what extent are you interacting with it? Okay. Pairing up. This is a technique. You can do exploratory testing alone, or you can do it with someone else. Okay, you can let someone drive while you take notes, work together, distributed cognition, okay, also known as cheating. Some people call it cheating. It's like, no, I'm just distributing cognition around. So, generating and elaborating, working quickly, refactoring, adapting, revisiting the situation later on. Okay? Kind of like, well, I plug it back into curling. Of the video you saw, is there anything that you can recognize in here, what they were doing? Or what we were doing with the triangle program? Okay? Like refocusing. Once I heard 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1, that was kind of, oh wait, I'm not just trying any numbers here. I'm trying single-digit numbers less than 5. I'm deciding to focus in there. Okay? So, skills and tactics. Alternating. Switching among contrasting different activities or perspectives. Let me give you some examples. Have you ever been testing something where you're just gathering data just to see what's happening? And you may do some analysis later on, but you're just gathering data. And then you say, well, I'm tired of gathering the data. Now I want to look at what the data is telling me and look at patterns. So you may alternate from data gathering to data analysis. Okay? I was trying to test an IP address program. All it did was check the syntax of the 4 octets. Really simple. Is it from 0 to 255? Are each octet, in that range? Well, it was giving me invalid results for valid numbers. But I couldn't figure out the pattern, so I just tried hundreds and hundreds of IP addresses that I could think of. I just tried test after test after test after test after test, and I couldn't see a pattern. It didn't make any sense to me. Sometimes it would fail with 111 in the first octet. Sometimes it would pass with 111 in the first octet. And I'm like, what is going on? So over a period of 8 hours, I alternated between analyzing the data and saying, oh, that's interesting. I'll try this test. This is what the data is suggesting. No, it didn't work. So I need to gather more data. Okay, these are polarities. What about solo work versus team effort? There are times that you may want to pair up with somebody. That's a particular technique, a tactic you can use to exploit an alternating skill. Okay, more polarities. Sometimes you want to really dig in there and investigate, and sometimes you just want to get a feel for the product. You just want to be more of a tourist. Okay, just maybe in the first session that you do, for example, if you give yourself 90 minutes to explore something, give yourself a mission, you may just want to do some conformance tests just to get a feel for how it works and try your devious stuff later on. So that's testing versus touring. You may want to try one feature now and then take a break from that and try this other feature just to give your mind a break. Okay? Now all of these things I've been mentioning are things that I've seen testers do and seen myself do as an exploratory tester. Branching versus backtracking. To what extent do you take an idea and then get inspired to try an idea off of that idea and then come back to the original idea later on? Conjecturing. Here's what I think is going on here. Let me see if I can corroborate or refute my own conjectures. Is the moon made of green cheese? Something like that. How would you corroborate or refute that? Recording. To what extent do you take notes? What kind of notes do you take? What do you decide to write down? Do you use a recording tool? Okay? Some people call any use of any tool automation. I call it computer-assisted testing. There's a product called Spectre, by the way, that records mouse clicks and keystrokes. Another one called BB Test Assistant that allows you even to embed audio into your recording so you can show a developer what your thought pattern was. That's recording. And lastly, reporting. Now, there's a difference between recording and reporting, right? Because recording is something you do for you, perhaps. Reporting is something you deliver to someone else. So you may not want to deliver them your raw notes. So it's a separate skill. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay, good. I will send links to whoever's interested. Here's some useful links for checklists and ways to help you think of test ideas when you're stuck. This is created by my brother. Elements of a test plan, quality criteria. There's a better one. A heuristic test strategy model. I want to scroll down to this. Function testing, scenario testing, claims testing, all different kinds of techniques, remember, that you can use with either a scripted approach or an exploratory approach. Okay? These documents are freely available at satisfice.com, my brother's website, flow testing, random testing, all kinds of things. Customers, team, equipment and tools, all the factors that may decide what kind of tests you're going to run. Okay, so where are you at? Do you know there's something called exploratory testing? Yes, you do. You watch it being done? Yes, you have some curiosity. Create some definitions, ask some questions, participate in discussion threads, study others' experiences, and finally, we're all going to move to Canada eventually to become a commentator for CBC, so we better just do it now. And I'll leave you with this about gaining skill, becoming better at this. One from Ernest Hemingway, it's none of their business that you have to learn to write. Let them think you were born that way. Kind of like that one. Quote from Bradbury. And then a quote from my dad, who wrote a book called Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. It's about a guy, an airplane mechanic, who happens to be a messiah, and he doesn't want to be a messiah anymore. So he just becomes an airplane mechanic. That's all he wants to do. But people keep asking them to heal him and everything. So that's one of the quotes from the Messiah's Handbook. They give you a handbook when you're a messiah, apparently, according to Dad. And that's one of the quotes in there. So I believe that's it. I'll just end with a haiku. Okay, engage the skill set. 14 different skills and tactics. What do you think? Am I missing something? Was something confusing? Can I elaborate on anything? I know I didn't leave many time for questions, but now's the time to ask them. Any questions? Any questions? Yes. Oh, thank you. Oh, I don't know. I was so afraid I would get a question that I couldn't answer. I've got like 8 email addresses. No, let me give you John B, J-O-N-B as in boy, at Quardev, Q-U-A-R-D-E-V.com. Okay, John B at Quardev.com. I do have a Gmail account, but I'm embarrassed to say I haven't used it in a while, and I forgot the password, and I haven't gotten around to getting it. So forgive me. I was bestowed upon that honor, and I haven't used it wisely. Yes?
How much of test-driven development do you consider exploratory?
I don't know enough about test-driven development to wage a good answer about that. Tell me more about the spirit of your question, though.
Because when I was using Agile in my old job, we would create story points first by having the testers develop the test cases that we were going to run without any specs whatsoever, so we can guesstimate how long it would take us to test a certain product, and also the kind of tests that we were going to build, so that the developers could build the product based on those tests. Mm-hmm. So I see some of the skill sets that you had there sort of go into that. Yeah.
Okay. So let me see if I found a parallel here. For test-driven development, which is it's an agile way to create tests while it's still in development and do more unit testing sooner and do more of the testing front-loaded.
Before it's even developed.
Before it's even developed. Yeah, I don't know how I would give an answer that would be a perfect integration to what you're looking for, other than to try a session. Try to come up with 20 or 30 charters or loosely scripted a paragraph of here's what I want to explore, and give yourself an hour or 90 minutes. Take some notes. The quick tactic is notes, bugs, and issues. So write up your notes, write up whatever bugs you find, and any issues, things that may be bugs but you're not sure, and see if after you've done like a day's worth of that, 3 or 4 sessions, see if that helps unearth some more charter ideas or ways to build cases if that's what you need to do on the unit side. That's the only way I think I can do justice to your question. So. Okay, yes?
What's the biggest weakness of exploratory testing?
What's the biggest weakness of exploratory testing? I think the biggest weakness is not knowing how to do it well, because if you don't know how it's done and what the skills and tactics might be, and you don't do them on purpose, and you can't explain the story of your testing, it only fuels a mystique mystique of it, and it only contributes to managers who may say, oh, okay, then anybody could do it, so let's just offshore it. Or, okay, I'm confused as to what you really did there. Whereas if we came up with a language, it doesn't have to be this one, but a language that works, that may strengthen exploratory testing's ability to be perceived as valuable. Kind of like if curling didn't have any nomenclature to it, it was just, and the commentators were just able to say, wow, that looked like a good shot, and they weren't able to describe why. I think that that would actually harm the sport. But it was because these guys knew how to get excited and why they were getting excited that I got excited about curling and saw the parallels with exploratory testing. So I think the biggest weakness is exactly what I'm trying not to do today, is to give you guys some weapons to describe what it is you're doing and to maybe pick out some of these skills and tactics and say, I need to be better at note-taking. Or I want to try, see if I can do some of this chartering stuff. Okay? Or, man, I missed a couple of bugs last round. I want to see if there's any particular observational tactics and techniques I can try. Okay? Good question. Thanks for that. Yes?
What are the future directions for exploratory testing? Like, where's the research going and where's it being done?
You're looking at it. Where is the research going next in exploratory testing, he asked. Where's the future of it? This exploratory testing research summit is a new thing. And what I'm excited about is working more with this language and trying to see if, do some more research on how long does it take a tester to come up to speed or be considered a testing expert or a savant, or what is it that testers do that makes them the guy or the gal you want to go to when you've got 1 hour to ship or 1 hour to test? What is it about them? And then talking about it at venues like this and at conferences and saying, it's not random, it's very thoughtful. It's not unstructured, it can be structured. Dispelling the myth that if you put two exploratory testers back to back, they're going to do the same thing anyway, because there's, it's pretty obvious what needs to be done. And also the myth that, if you put two exploratory testers side by side, they'll do completely different things. So what difference does it make? Both myths actually have some validity to them, but they can't exist in the same space, which tells me that there's more research to be done. Okay. So, and we're going to probably have another, there's the workshop on heuristic and exploratory techniques in May, where a bunch of colleagues and I will get together again and talk more about these questions, where it's going next. Good question. Okay. Anything else?
One last question.
One last question? I think my time may be up anyway. My time is up. Great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.